the rest of today, I will be talking about the making your consistent looking websites using themes and skins. I'll finish up about the themes and skins, essentially, while we are learning more about themes and how we can programmatically change the themes of a website. I will give you an introduction to the cookies and how to use them within your websites. And we finish up this part of our class and discussion about skins with discussing about skins, and then I'll move on to user input validation, and I'll show you how you can use ASP.NET's user validation controls to work with validations and validating user inputs and user data. So we learned that so far we could use master pages and give a global look and feel to the pages in our website, and we could control the behavior of our websites and pages within the website by creating central base pages and having our website pages inherit from them. We can even further influence the feel and look of our website by applying themes and skins. A theme is a collection of files that defines the look of a page, and I showed you last week how a theme looks like, and I'll show you again this week, and we go over the themes that were applied to the website I created last week. We can define the themes by putting them, which is their CSS file, the image files related to the CSS files, into an app_themes folder in the root of our website. In this folder, as I said, we can create subfolders and define the actual themes within those subfolders. So once we create that subfolder and put the CSS files and related formatting files of that particular theme into its theme subfolder in the app_themes folder, we link to each of the CSS files that are within the theme folder to our page's head element or head section when the theme is active. So to recap, what we can do is essentially we can create a special app_themes folder and then create a folder with the theme's name in it, and then put the information about CSS, images, and everything within that theme into the appropriate theme folder that we created and add it to the page at runtime. There are two different types of themes, as I discussed last week: an ASP.NET theme property and an ASP.NET style sheet theme property. Both of these properties use the same themes that we define in the app_themes folder. The theme property and style sheet theme property actually look very similar, but in runtime behavior, their behaviors are very much different. The style sheet theme property is basically applied very early in the page's lifecycle. And if you remember, the page had several stages in its lifecycle, from the starting of page request phase that was initiated the moment you requested a page from a web browser, to the start phase, initialization phase, load phase, validation phase, post-back event handling phase, rendering phase, and eventually the unload phase, when you close the page and you would close up the connections to, for example, databases or release resources in the unload phase. So a style sheet theme is applied very early in the life cycle of the page, and right after you basically created an instance of the page. This means that an individual page can override the settings that are applied in the styling of the theme by manipulating their inline attributes. So for example, you can create a theme with a skin file that has a background color, and then you can basically change the background of the color of a particular page by giving it a different style and a different background color. In contrast, the theme property is applied very late in the page's life cycle, and basically it renders all the other styling that has been happening to pages within their own style sheets or their own inline CSS attributes. This basically enforces the final look of the theme on the website. So if a user had changed or programmatically changed the appearance of a web page, the theme property, if applied, it would override those kinds of properties. Because the theme and style sheet and theme properties are different, you can essentially use them in different types of applications and websites. Because style sheet properties can be overridden by pages, since it's been applied early on in the page, you could basically use this if you want to supply a default setting for your controls. And then if users would like to change them, then they could override them later on. But if you want to enforce the look and feel of the controls, you would use the theme property instead. And in that case, because the settings from the theme cannot be overridden anymore, and effectively write any other customizations that has been performed to controls and pages, you can make sure that the controls look the way you want them to look on the final look of the page using the theme property. If you use the theme property and you want some controls to basically not follow the theme, you could set their enable theming attribute to false at the control level. That way, those controls whose enable theming attribute has been set to false, they will not follow the theme property, and this way they can be customized further. There are three ways that you can apply themes to the web pages. You can set the themes at the page level. That is, you go to the page directive and you create essentially the attribute theme and assign it to the particular theme, which is the name of the folder containing the theme information and images and CSS files within the underscore app app underscore themes folder of your website. Or you could apply style sheet theme at the page directive. You can do applying the themes to your website at the website level. That is, you would apply the theme or the style sheet theme in the page element of the system.web of your web config file. This is applied to enforce a theme throughout the entire website. So you would make sure that all of the pages in the website follow this theming property. And finally, you can set the themes programmatically. And this is the most efficient way of applying your themes throughout the code. And we will see that a little later tonight or today. And I'll show you how we can write programs that would get user input as to what kind of themes from a themes collection they want applied to their website, and programmatically on the runtime, in the runtime, we would apply these theme properties. Okay, now let me show you a website that we created last week, and I'll show you and walk you through how the themes are applied to this website. We'll do a little bit of more work and play a little bit with the theme properties, and then I'll move on to show you how we can actually make the website more interactive and for the users to be able to select a theme. So this is the website that we created. This is the master pages, and notice that what I did is that I took out the CSS style sheet property of this master pages out, and as you see, the default page uses basically content placeholders IDs that refers to the master pages contents or content placeholders and everything, and we discussed these things last week. Now let's go back to the Solution Explorer window of our website, and let me show you how the this page website is set up. In the Solution Explorer, under the website root folder, which is MS Page Demo, you will see that I have a app_themes, a folder called Master Pages, and my pages, essentially. That is a default page, a test template page, and an under construction page. The default page is where I have the main content of the page. Now, if you look into the master pages, in the master pages website, folder, I have the frontend.master, which is the master page of my program, my website. Master pages again starts with the master directive, and it controls the overall feel and look of our application and website. I have put the themes in the app_themes folder, and I have 3 themes here: theme 1, theme monochrome, and dark gray. And I'll show you how the monochrome and dark gray are set up. So, for example, in the dark gray, I have a darkgray.css file that contains the style sheet of the dark gray theme, and under the images, I have a header file, which is a JPEG file, and it contains a header that is used in the darkgray.css file to control the background color or background image of the header. And if you look at the header component or the header ID selector in darkgray.css, you will notice that I have applied a background image to the URL, or essentially to the background image of the header of the website. So if you go to the default page, you will see that the master pages, the head component is basically the header component is basically this div section here that contains the look of the header placeholder of the website. So let's apply this dark gray theme to the website. To do so, you need to go to the web.config file, find the system.web component, and find the page component. If it's not there, you can create it and apply theme dark gray to your website. When you do that and you go to ASP, to the main default ASPX, and run your page, you will notice that the dark gray theme is applied to your website, and that's how your website looks like. And this background color is the background color that was applied, or the background image that was applied to the header. If I go and take that image out, and I run my website one more time, you see that the background image is now gone. So that's how you can extend your themes, by adding images to different components of your CSS file in the backgrounds of menus or backgrounds of headers and footers to make your website look more professional. Okay, so let's go back and add the header back in, the header background image, and let's run the website one more time. So here's basically the application of the theme. Now if you go and look at the page's source code, you will see that although we didn't specifically include the style sheet darkgray.css, when we applied the themes at runtime, ASP.NET Server would look at this darkgray.css style sheet file within the dark gray theme, within the app_themes folder of your website, and apply it to your final HTML code of your website. For this reason, because the runtime server applies this style sheets automatically, you need to make sure that you keep your theme folders clean in order to avoid unintended application of some style sheets and styling properties to your web pages. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind is when you go to your pages after you apply the themes and go to the design view, the Visual Web Developer design component does not automatically apply the style sheets to the look of the website in the design page because that theme style sheet is applied at runtime by the ASP.NET server. When you apply themes, you will lose the styling properties when you're designing your web page. To go about this and basically make sure that you have that component in the design phase or design page of your Visual Web Developer, you can basically in the web config also apply style sheet theme basically to give the default look of your website, and that way you will have this component also applied to your design design view or design component. So if you run this website one more time, you will see that the dark gray style sheet is applied to the head of your final HTML element, and also it is applied to the after basically the head has been created, it is also applied to your right before the body of the document, which is the last time or one of the last places where your page's lifecycle would appear. And this way in your design view also you would have access to the look of the theme in your web pages. Now let's change the theme one more time and see how it looks like. Let's go back to the web config, and in the web config, let's, instead of dark gray, let's change it to monochrome, the style sheet, and the theme properties, and let's run one more time in the browser. So here is now the new look of your website with a new theme. And if you look at the source page, you see that right in the beginning of the head element, you have the monochrome styles applied to your page. And also at the end of your head element, the style is applied. That way you will have access to the theme style sheet early on in the page's lifecycle, and also later on you enforce it finally by applying the theme element. And if you go to the design view of your default page, now you see that the page's look has been changed according to the new theme. Okay, as you saw in the previous example that I just showed you, you can put CSS files in the theme, but besides that, you can also put skin files. You can also put images in the theme, and then apply those images to your CSS attributes and properties. So you could basically use all of these components and skins that we will see a little later in this lecture, would enable you basically and would grant you lots of flexibility in terms of defining your the look of your web pages. So, in just particularly when you're talking about adding images to your CSS files, an image is referred to by a CSS selector, and basically will be searched for by looking at relative to the location of the CSS file, unless you give it a path that will start with a forward slash to indicate that it has to be addressed from the root of your website. So, for example, if you have in your app underscore theme folder, you had a basically a theme, and within the theme folder you had an images folder, then when you're using the URL to find the location, you need to put the folder where your images are located, and then forward slash, and then the name of the background image or the image that you are using. If the folder where your images are located within the root of the main website, you should start the link with a forward slash. Otherwise, you just use relative to the location address to address your images. Now, when you create images and themes, and we have seen them, you could apply them from the site level or on the page level, essentially, when you're designing your web pages. However, you can also switch the themes dynamically at runtime, and this has a few benefits. One of the benefits that dynamically switching themes has is that, for example, if you had users with different tastes and different artistic backgrounds, you could create different looking websites and allow them to choose their own look of the websites whenever they're using your services and your websites. So some people might just like websites that are high contrast and they're pretty well defined in terms of much less use of visual effects and things like that. Some people might like more colorful websites. So this way you could give them a choice. Another reason to use dynamically switched themes is that you might have visually impaired users who require larger font size and higher contrasts in terms of the colors on your website. So you could create that kind of themes for your website look so that every user could basically use your website efficiently. Because of the way that themes are applied to a page at runtime, you need to set the theme early on in the page's lifecycle, and that is happening throughout the pre-init event of your page's lifecycle. The base page of the website is basically the ideal location to apply your dynamically switchable themes, or basically to dynamically switch your themes. The base page is a perfect location for it because, as I mentioned, base page is created and maintained for your website to inherit pages from very early on. And you could essentially put the pre-init event handler in your base page and create your code that dynamically changes the websites. So, and this way, all of your pages from the website inherit from the base page. Therefore, they could inherit the dynamically changing of the themes. To enable users to change the themes, you can offer them a drop-down menu that typically posts back to the server whenever its attributes or its selection changes. And once the selection changes, a postback occurs at the server, and the server gets the resulting theme from the drop-down list selected choice, applies it to the page, and stores this theme into a cookie. So that when the user logs off or closes your website, and then the next time they open your website, their choice of theme would automatically be applied instead of them having to re-choose the theme they like. I'll talk about the cookies next. So again, just to recap what happened here, when you want to apply your themes or dynamically change the themes, you perform this dynamic change in your base page, because again, base page was the place that your basically the inheritance of your web pages from the base page occur very early on in their life cycle. So the theme would be applied very early on in the page's life cycle if you apply it into the website base page. But to allow the users to choose between the pages, the themes, you would create a drop-down list. That way, users would be able to choose one out of a given number of themes that you allow them to choose from. Then users would find this the theme they like to. Once the selection happens, the base page code that would make the change to the theme would run and change the look of the page and store the selected theme into a cookie that the users would automatically or the browser would automatically retrieve the next time the users would go on the website. So we will basically perform the functionality to switch these themes next. But before we do that, I need to talk a little bit about cookies and what they are and what they're useful for. Almost all of us so far have heard the word cookie. Some of us have vast experience in terms of using them. Some of us probably have not worked with them yet. Cookies are basically little pieces of text that can be stored on a user's computer. And the data that is stored in the cookie can be only sent to the server that created it in the first place. And so other sites can't read the cookies from your website. However, because cookies are stored on your desktop or your user's computer as plain text, one thing to make sure is not to put sensitive information such as credit card numbers or passwords or any other sensitive information in them. Otherwise, any other type of information that is harmless is preferred to put into cookies so that you could essentially use them efficiently, and your websites could use them efficiently. There have been a lot of debate about cookies and whether they're good or harmful for privacy. Generally, cookies are considered to be safe because they only store data that the server that sets it could retrieve and use. And because the server has already set it, basically, and they are using it, it shouldn't have been any problem with it. Because after all, it's the data that they created. So they can't be used to steal sensitive data from a computer if you haven't given this data to a website at the first place. But in most scenarios, cookies would improve browser experience by remembering little pieces of information and data, and you could set them up to expire at a certain interval of time or a certain time. But some large corporations like advertising agencies use a unique cookie to track your basically the places you see on the website. And this would give them a global idea about the sites you visit. And so when you, for example, want to go to a website that provides some sort of services, they would be able to basically show the products and services that you might be more interested according to your browsing history. But, generally speaking, some people might not feel comfortable about using cookies. And the rule of thumb is that do not set sensitive information within cookies. Try to use encryption and encrypted encryption methodologies to pass and store sensitive data. So what we will do is now we create the theme selection drop-down list, we store the theme in a cookie, and we pre-select an initial theme for the website, and then the system would essentially run the base page whenever the choice of theme changes from the user. And it stores the data in the cookie, and the next time you go and use this data, you can your server would basically retrieve the cookie and apply your choice of the theme instead of the initial theme that we create. Okay, so now let's see how we can let the users select the theme. Let's first create the theme Dropbox and store it in a cookie and pre-select the initial theme. So here I'm back at my Visual Web Developer. I need to put the theme selection drop-down list in the master page so that it would show up on all of the pages. And a good place for it is in the sidebar menu. So down here you see that sidebar menu goes here, and what I want to do is that to put a pre-selection choice down at the sidebar here, go to the design view and find the drop-down list and drag one into the sidebar, and then let's go to the edit items of this drop-down list, and what I will do is that I will put the two texts and items for this drop-down list to choose from the monochrome and the dark gray. So click on the list item 0, add, and then for the text type dark gray, and it automatically adds the value to it, and for the other one type monochrome, and this way you added both values. Now let's go back to the source page and see what we see here. So we have a drop-down list. It's called drop-down list 1, and give it theme selection list as the ID, so it would make more sense. And the items that I have a dark gray item and a monochrome item. Let's go back to the design view one more time, and here select the drop-down list and click on the events at the properties grid of this item, and let's go and find the selected index change function and double click on it. It would take you to the master's code behind file C#, and you will see the theme selection list _ selected index change, which is the event that would happen when you change the selection. Before we write any code in here, we need to go back to the design view of the master pages and need to make sure that in the properties grid of the properties grid of this drop-down list, we make sure that it posts back automatically when the values change. So click on the auto post back and make it true from false. Now let's go back to the master pages code behind file, and here when you changed the property or the theme of the website, you need to store this theme that is changed into a cookie in the browser, in the user's computer. You need to make sure that you have a expiration date for the browser, and then you need to add this cookie, which contains the preferred theme of your website, in the user's computer. So here I'll show you how to do this. First off, you need to create a cookie, and cookies are basically from a class called HTTP cookie, and we call it preferred theme. Once I have this preferred theme defined, you can create a new instance of this cookie by using the new keyword, and you want to type the type of the object, which is an HTTP cookie, and you give it the name preferred cookie. So you initiate this object with the name preferred theme. Now, next you need to set its expiration date. So the expiration date of this preferred theme, which is a cookie, or an HTTP cookie, is basically of a date time type, and it's 3 months from now. So you put .now, .add to it, to the months, the value 3. This sets the expiration date of this cookie as 3 months, and it expires 3 months from the time it was created. The next option that you need to create is to assign the selection drop-down value that was selected to the value of this cookie. So you put the preferred theme.value, and you make it the theme selection list dot selected value, which is the item that you choose from the theme selection. Now, the next step that you need to take is to send this cookie to the browser and or to the user's computer, and ask it to be stored or added to the cookies, to the list of cookies on user's computer. To do that, you use the response function or response method that sends the data from server to the user to the client machine. So you send cookie basically, and you add it to the list of the cookies. You send the preferred cookie or preferred theme cookie to and add it to the cookies list of on the user machine. So that will be done by method response.cookies.add, and you add the preferred theme to the user's computer. Now the next step is make sure that you basically reload the page so that you will be able to automatically apply the cookie onto the user browser. Because remember that we are in the page, the theme selection list that happened in the page. The page has already been loaded and the theme has already been applied, because as you remember, I said that we applied the theme here in very early on in the page's lifecycle. Now, when the user chooses between the different themes on the drop-down list, the page has already been loaded and the themes have already been applied. So when we actually assign the cookie and the theme to the user's cookies list, we need to make sure that we reload the page so that this cookie will be read, and its theme will be applied to the user's browser. So to do so, we again use the response command or method, and at that point we redirect the browser to reload the same URL or the same web page. So again, the preferred theme has already been added to the cookies list, and we need to make sure that we basically let the page reload and basically read the cookie. So that can be done by using redirect method of the response command, and we send a request for the URL of this the site or the page, and we change it into string, and that way the browser will be redirected and basically reloaded to show the cookie. So that's the first important step to take to enable the users to programmatically apply different themes to their browsers. That is again done through the use of cookies. We let the users choose a preferred theme from a drop-down list, and when the selection changed, we essentially create a cookie, load it with the selected value, and send it to the user's computer to store, and reload the page. When we reload the page, the browser would read the cookie from user's computer and would apply it to the selection list. And that can happen in the page load event that you see up here. Because we redirected the browser, the next event that happens is the page load. In the page load, we need to make sure that we check to see if the page has been posted back. And if it has not been posted back, then we basically read the cookies. Okay, so to test for the postback event in the page, we use an if statement. And within the if statement, we check the isPostback attribute of the page. So if it's not true, so we put not page.isPostback, which means that if the page has not been posted back, then we perform the set of reading the cookie and setting the selection list selected item. So the first thing to do is to create a string file that reads the page theme, which is basically the theme that has already been applied. So, and we put the selected theme into, or the page theme into a string variable called selected theme. The next option is to create a cookie and then read the cookie. One thing that we could do is that we could create the HTTP cookie first using the new keyword and then read it from the browser or from the user's computer. Or we could combine the two steps at once and declare the cookie by using the keyword HTTP cookie, preferred cookie, and then put the preferred theme cookie from the user browser into it. So again, I combine both steps here of defining or declaring and also then populating the cookie in the same line. In the selection change item, I first created the cookie and then applied the cookie. So here I would basically request from the user browser. So here basically I request from the user browser to get from its cookies the preferred theme, which is the cookie that I created already. Now notice that I could not use any other cookie because I don't know their names, and the preferred cookie that I created, since I know its name, I can basically read it from the browser, from the user browsers. Now, the setting up of the selection item should basically check for the preferred theme cookie that we just read to see if it is null or if it contains values that are essentially within the list. So first you need to check to see if the preferred theme cookie is not empty, meaning that somebody has already stored some value in it. And that can be done with this if statement that checks to see if the preferred theme is null. If it's not null, then you change the selected theme from the page theme to the cookie's value. So what you will do is that you change the selected theme and equals preferred theme dot value. Since the value is not null, it might contain some string. You put that string into the selected theme variable here, because that's the variable that you want to apply and make your drop-down list change to this value that is stored in the user's browser. You see, for example, if and then you need to make sure that this new theme that you applied is not null or it's not empty, and at the same time you want to make sure that this value is also within the theme selection list. So if somebody has stored some other value in it, then you want to basically stop from making changes to the preferred theme list, which is your drop-down list. So first check the string to see if it's null or empty. And if it's not null or empty, then check to see if the theme list or the theme selection list drop-down list, within its item, there is a value that is basically equal to the string variable that contains the theme from the cookie. So this part of the line ensures that the stored cookie has a correct item value which is within the list, the drop-down list. If that is the case, then you make its selection or selected property equal true. That means that when your page is loaded, it would read the cookie, and then if the cookie has value in it, and its value is one of the values within your drop-down list, it would make sure that the browser shows that value as selected from your drop-down list. Now, these are the two important steps that you needed to take to enable your browser to start essentially showing the cookies. And so the last step that we made, or the last check that we made, was to check to see if we can, if the selected theme variable that was read, that read the value of the cookie, is actually a valid selection item in the selected list. If it's not, then this function returns null, and therefore we don't make changes to the current selection of the selected list. If the preferred value contains a value that is one of the legitimate themes from the drop-down list, then this function does not return null, and then we can basically make the selected property of that legitimate theme from the drop-down list, which we read from the cookie, equal true. That way the browser, when it's rendering the drop-down list, it renders the correct selection. So again, just to recap, we did two steps here, important steps. The first step was that when the selection from the drop-down list changed, we created a cookie and we stored it on user's browser. And we made sure that made sure that it expires a few months from now. And this function, selection function, stored the cookie, and because the page was already loaded, we redirected the browser, basically reloaded the browser, and within the page load command, we made sure that we read the cookie from the browser, and we put its value into a string variable, and we check to see if that string variable is not empty and is also one of the real themes from the drop-down list, and if so, we made that theme to be selected as a result of this operation. So now everything has been set up for us to create basically a program that once it read the cookies and it made the selection, the correct selection on the drop-down list, it would use the page base to basically apply these theme now onto the page programmatically in the very early stages of the page cycle, and to be exact, in the pre-init of the page. So I will show you next how we can create that process. Okay, so in the previous tutorial I showed you that in order to programmatically change the themes by letting the user to choose among the themes that they want to apply to their website, we needed to perform two tasks. The first task was to essentially, it was a two-part task, was to make sure that we take the selection from the user and save it as a cookie on the user's computer and redirect the page, or basically reload the page. And then on the page load event, also we made sure that we read the cookie and we make the content of the cookie, which would be the user selected theme, to be applied to the drop-down list of the themes so that it would show on the page. But we haven't actually essentially applied the theme yet. So the second step of this process is to apply the user-selected theme to the page. And we want to apply this in a very early part of the page's lifecycle. And for that reason, we set this into the pre-init event of the page's lifecycle. And this event takes place basically early in the page's lifecycle, in before the initialization phase of the page's lifecycle. Inside this event, we will check to see if the cookie with the selected theme exists, and if it does, then we can use its value to set the right theme. So let me show you how we can do that in Visual Web Developer. Now here I am in the Visual Web Developer, and let me close up the files that we don't want. Essentially, we are done with the master's page, and we are done with the styling files and with the ASP of. So what I need to do is to bring the base page up, and the base page, as you see, we have created a class called base page, and it's a public class, and it inherits from system.web.ui.page. And within that class, I have a constructor function or method, which is essentially the same name as the name of the base, and whenever or the object itself, which is base page, and whenever I create a web page which is based on this base page, a new object or a new instance of this base page class will be created, and the page will inherit from this class. And what I did previously is that I wanted to make sure that the title of the page is not empty, and if it were, I wanted to throw an exception. So in the pre-render event of this this page, I created a new event handler, and I named it page renderer. And within that page renderer, which is the event handler of this page, I checked the title to see if it was null or if it was untitled. And then if that were the case, then I threw this exception that says page title cannot be either untitled page or an empty string. Now the next step of this process is to basically select the theme during the pre-init event of the page's lifecycle. To do so, within the constructor of the page, which basically is where the page will be created, or an instance of the page will be created, you call the pre-init event, and as you see, as you type, the IntelliSense automatically finds the appropriate methods and properties that you could apply. So this makes it easier to program. And you want to add to the pre-init event handler list of your page a new event handler, and you need to call this new event handler essentially a page pre-init. That would be a function, a void function. So you create a new event and call it page underscore pre-init. Now notice the pre-init is basically underlined red. That means that the page pre-init does not exist in this current class. What you need to do is to create the pre-init function or page pre-init function here. So you will go up before the page base function and define the pre-init function, which would be a private function, and it would be void called page pre-init and as input it would get a object sender and an event args, and you call it E. Now within this function is where you apply the theme. So what you need to do is to read the cookie, and if it's null, it is not null, apply its value to the page theme. So if you remember, we can create a cookie with the keyword HTTP cookie, and you call it preferred theme cookie. You can call it anything. Giving it reasonable names would basically make your code more readable. And in order to read the cookie from the user's browser, you use the request command. So you request from the cookies list to get the preferred theme is the name of the cookie that you stored in user browsers when they changed the theme. And of course you apply this theme if the cookie is not empty. So if the preferred theme, which is now the cookie object, and IntelliSense automatically highlights the relevant information that you are working with, and if you check it, if it's not null, then you apply the cookie value to the page theme. So page theme equals preferred theme dot value. Another programming hint in using conditional statements such as if is that if the block of code that you want to run within a conditional statement is only one line or one instruction, then you won't have to use the curly braces to indicate the scope of the if statement you're using here. If it is more than one statement, then you would have to use curly braces to indicate that this if should basically cover a set of instructions or a set of lines of codes that you need to run within this if statement. Now let's save the changes here, and let's use the default ASP.X in the browser. Now we are in the browser, and you will see that to the right in the sidebar you have a basically sidebar that contains the themes that you would like to apply. Now currently we are in monochrome, and basically the monochrome theme has been applied as the initial theme. And if you click on dark gray, okay, it's not applying the new theme. Oh, I know, the webconfig file has a style sheet attribute applied to it. So let's go back to the webconfig and let's remove the style sheet attribute. Now here's what happened. Because I had set the style sheet attribute of this page, it would basically run a little later after the pre-init phase. So the page would be changed in the pre-init phase, but then the style sheet attribute would override it. So in this case, now let's reload the page, and when you call, let's save this attribute, the webconfig, and let's now reload the page. Okay, now the page is being loaded, and monochrome is the default theme, and when I click on dark gray, it is not still being applied. Okay, well, I have made a whole bunch of changes and debugged my my program. You see these red things for debugging, and what I found out is that, when I save the cookies or add the cookies, the preferred theme cookies, and then I'm reading the cookie up here, what happened is that it always returned null. And my guess is my probably browser have some sort of setting that I try to basically enable the cookies, but apparently it's not taking place and it's not effective. I'll put it as a discussion, so you would share your opinions with me about this. Basically, here's what happens. When a selection changes, we create a preferred theme cookie. We make its expiration date 3 months from now, which is in February, and I put the value of the selected theme from the drop-down list into the preferred cookie, and then I saved it. But when I'm reading the cookie up here, it will not perform the correct reading. Essentially what it does is that it returns a null object. That's why the theme was not applied. So aside from that, let's go back to our next topic. Now, we saw that really themes are a great tool in terms of customizing our websites and their look of the websites. And I showed you how to programmatically change the look of the website. However, for some reason it didn't save the cookies properly. When you use the themes in conjunction with master pages, you basically get a lot of flexibility in terms of influencing the look and feel of your entire website. But you could even go further than that, and essentially you can have further flexibility to give different look to all of the buttons, for example, in the website, or for all of the text boxes in the website, or even for an individual text box. And that's where the skins come into place. Basically, skins are simple text files that contain markup that enables you to define the look and feel of one or more server controls from a central location. That is where the skin file is stored. The skin files are placed in the essentially internal in the theme folder, and they're a very good part of creating features for the theme. And skin files usually basically are files with a .skin extension, and they contain server-side presentational elements of the control. That is, when you have a server control, and for example a button, it has background color, it has foreground color, it has the attribute of run at. So what you could do is that you could basically create a skin file for a button control, and within the skin file give the definitions of your presentational elements of your server control. For example, its background color or foreground color and things like that. From then, all of the buttons that you use in the page will automatically change. This is basically the same thing as the properties and the control that we can essentially manipulate and change within CSS files, essentially. Here, we would put them in a skin file. So the skin markup essentially will be very, very similar to actually a server control markup. There are a few differences about them. First of all, the control in the skin file cannot have an ID attribute, so you can't give an ID to the control that you define in a skin file. The ID should basically should be used to uniquely identify a control in a page, and because skin is applied to all of the controls of that particular kind, you can't use ID, otherwise your browser would give you an error, or the server will give you an error. Another property in the skin that you can't use is the enable property of a button, because again, that's also another attribute that is basically defined per server control rather than basically applying to more than one server control at the same time. Generally speaking, if you want to think about what attributes should and should not be used in a skin file, if an attribute is a appearance attribute, you can use it in the skin file to create appearances for the objects that are going to use that skin. And if it's a behavioral attribute, such as enable view state, and other kinds of attributes, you cannot set it in a skin file. When you create a skin file, you can use and add all the items. Basically, you add new item from the dialog box, and then you create a skin file. You can basically delete all the default text that is created for you, and you can define the control skins within your skin file. However, a good idea is to create a CSS class that you already have to apply the presentational information of your items within the skin file, and essentially retrieve them from your CSS file instead of having to put them within your skin. It makes your skin file a little bit more readable. Basically, you can use the server controls and HTML markup, and instead of defining the presentational element within the markup, you can basically use a CSS class of that markup and point it to the presentational or the ID selector of that element. So here we will do a couple of things. We will first go ahead and create a universal skin, and we define the skin properties in the skin file and we apply it. Then we create a named skin file. Essentially, we add the skin ID to the skin control in the file, and then in the web page you can use the skin ID for a particular control to point to that skin item. And finally, I'll show you how to disable theming property for a specific control so that the skins and other theme options would not. Okay, now I'm back in the Visual Web Developer, and I'll first go to the tools and options, and if the show all settings is not checked, I click on show all settings, I'll click on text editor, I'll click on file extension, and then I'll go and type in skin and use user control editor and add it and press OK. And this way I will have IntelliSense activated in my skin files. Now next I need to create a skin file. So you go to monochrome theme folder, right click and add new item, and then from the add new item you can add a skin file, and then you type the skin file's name down here. I have already done that, and it is called button.skin. Now within the button.skin I create two buttons, basically looks. The ASP button essentially with CSS class my button, the background color 7A70A4, and run at server. And the second one is the skin button that I created as a named skin. In this second button, as you see, I have created a skin ID name and I call it red button, and then I can use it in my website. So let's use the first skin button in the website. Let's create a new file in the main directory of the website. Click add new item and base it on your base page template, and let's call this skin demo, and click add, and this way a skin demo will be file will be created, ASP.NET file, and it will have a default title, and it will be based on your master pages /frontend.master, and it'll inherit from skin demo page and essentially the code behind file and all the things that are in it. So if you run this page, you'll see that this page is created for you, and you have the entire look of the page. So what you could do here is within the main content placeholder, I will add a button, and the button would be created, and its ASP button, its ID is button 1, it runs at server, and its text is button. So if you run this now, you will see that the button will be created, and it will be the button that is defined within the skin file. Basically, it follows the my button selector from the monochrome.css, and my button selector in the monochrome.css has presentational elements. Essentially, the color is white, and the background color of your button is this 70A4, which gives you the look of this this button. Basically, the background color is the background color of the sidebar, which is the monochrome, and the text of the button is basically white. Now, if you wanted to make the font size basically bold, you could either type it in within the definition of your skin element, or you could go to the monochrome.css and put font weight bold, for example. And this way, when you run this page, the skin button page, I believe I ran the default page. Let's run the skin button. So now the text is bolded out. Okay, let's move the skin button's background color also to the skin file, to the CSS. So you could go and you could add background color as number sign that number, and in the skin file button.skin you could get rid of this background color, and you would still have the background applied, because the background is now coming from the CSS file. Now, doing this essentially makes your skin files a lot more readable and more contained. Now, the next, I would like to add another button that has a red background and a black foreground. And let's assume that I want to apply this to some of my the buttons in the website or web pages. Notice that when you don't create a skin ID and you just create a skin like this, all of the buttons that are created in your websites will automatically apply this styling behavior on themselves. And this way, all of the buttons would look consistent looking. However, as I said, you might have a few buttons that you want to create different colors for them or different looks for them. So in that case, you create a skin ID for those buttons in your skin file, and when you're creating in your main page, when you're creating a new item, you could essentially give them a skin ID, and that way with the skin ID, the server would know which one of the skins should be applied to this. So the attribute that you use here is called skin ID, and the skin ID that you have in your skin file is the red button. So when you run this page now, you will notice that now you have a button that's basically using the general look of the button, and then you have the red button that has the red button skin applied to it. Okay, next I want to show you how to disable your the theming, and when you do that, the themes will not be applied containing skins and all that other extra things to that particular server control. So let's assume that we have another button that we want to add to our website, but we don't want to add any skin to it. So for this button, what you could do is that you could use the enable theming and make the enable theming equal false, and of course the text as button, and let's call this no theme button, and let's run this website now. So now the buttons that are basically used by default, they will have the default button skins applied to them. The buttons that you want to use different skins or named skins, you add the skin ID names that you created in your skin file to them, and the buttons that you want them to basically look general and not have any skin and theming properties applied on them, you make their enable theme or enable theming as false, and this way these buttons will not have any skins applied to them. There are a few practical tips when you're creating consistent pages. When you create a new website, always start by adding a master page that has all of the presentational elements that you want to be applied to all the pages. And so even if you have a page, a website with few pages, a master page can basically ensure the consistent look across the website. And within the master page, you create places that with div elements or sections that you would put the consistent look of the website across the pages. And then for those parts that you want to change, you create container placeholders. And then the moment you find yourself that you're creating styling information and other kinds of data, consider creating skins for them. And you can control the layout of all similar controls from a single location. It makes it a lot easier to update your site. And if you want to have different types of looks for the same controls on different places in your website, consider creating name skins using skin ID, or disable skins with making enable theming for those controls to false. So when you're creating skins, try to basically use CSS class properties and put the styling related information within a CSS file for the site or a theme, and this decreases the amount of work that you need to do maintaining the skin files. And also export the template features of Visual Web Developer, or export the templates of your file or your website essentially as a template, and then when you're creating pages, try to base them on the template. This way you won't have to, when you create a page from master pages, you still have to do little work if you have base pages. Basically you'd have to make sure that your pages inherit from the base page. Now if you don't want to do that and you want to have the base page also applied as a template, especially if you have lots of code in the base page, create a temporary web page with the base page and everything applied to it, and then export it as a template. The next time you want to use and create new pages, you just simply make it based on your template, and this way you decrease the amount of overhead and code that you need to maintain within your pages.